All right, let's talk about Nintendo, because they just dropped their latest financial results, and wow, the numbers are just mind-blowing. I mean, we're talking about the kind of growth that seems almost impossible for a company this big. The big question is, how on earth did they pull this off? Well, let's dive in and break it all down. Okay, let's just rip the Band-Aid off and start with the headline number, because it is absolutely wild. A 99.3% increase in net sales year on year. To put that in perspective, for every single dollar they made last year, they made almost two this year. They practically doubled their entire business in just 1 year. That's insane.
So that brings us right back to the big question. How? How does a giant like Nintendo manage to double its revenue in a single year? Let's dig into the engine that fueled this incredible performance.
All right, so to really get the full picture, we gotta start with the official numbers. And believe me, they get even more impressive when you look past that crazy sales figure.
See that huge jump in sales? That's really just the start of the story. The really amazing part is how that cash translated into pure profit. So while sales doubled, their net profit, the money they actually get to keep, shot up by over 50%. That just shows you how incredibly efficient they are at a massive scale. This isn't just a good quarter, folks. This is a historic one. Okay, so it's time to answer that billion-dollar question, or in this case, a many billion-dollar question. What was the single biggest driver of all this success? Well, it all comes down to a brand new piece of hardware that has absolutely taken the world by storm. And here it is, the Nintendo Switch 2. This thing, launched back in June 2025, is the engine behind all those record-breaking numbers we just saw. It's the next step in their whole hybrid gaming vision, and let me tell you, people have responded in a massive way. Just how massive, you ask? In just its first 9 months, so from April to December 2025, Nintendo sold, get this, 17.37 million Switch 2 consoles. To put that into perspective for you, that's more consoles than some systems sell in their entire lifetime.
And if we zoom in on just the holiday season, the momentum is it's undeniable. The Switch 2 sold over 7 million units, totally dwarfing the original Switch. This transition to the next generation, it's happening at lightning speed.
And hey, you don't have to just take my word for it. Nintendo themselves came out and said that adoption is growing at the fastest pace ever for any console they've ever released. So yeah, it's not just a hit, it is officially their biggest launch in history, and it's leaving even the original Switch in the dust. But of course, as we all know, hardware is only half the story, right? Nintendo's real magic, their true genius, is in the games. And boy, did they launch the Switch 2 with an incredible lineup that basically forced millions of people to upgrade on day one. Leading that charge was the absolute blockbuster Mario Kart World. Now, this wasn't just another game. This was an event, a genuine system seller that drove millions and millions of console sales all by itself. And the numbers? They're just incredible. Over 14 million copies sold. Let me put that a different way for you. Out of the 17 million people who bought a Switch 2, 14 million of them also bought this game. That attach rate, as they call it, is it's phenomenal, almost unheard of. But Nintendo didn't just bet on one horse. This wasn't a one-trick pony. The launch was stacked with other huge first-party games, like the long-awaited Donkey Kong Bonanza, bringing another beloved franchise roaring onto the new hardware. And yep, you guessed it, it was also a huge success. We're talking over 4.25 million copies sold. So you take these two games together, and you've got this completely irresistible launch lineup that just powered the Switch 2 to that historic start. But what makes this whole launch truly historic isn't just about the shiny new hardware. It's the foundation it was built on, an absolutely unprecedented foundation, all thanks to the original Switch. So while all this craziness was happening with the Switch 2, the original Switch quietly crossed a monumental milestone. It has now officially, finally, surpassed the Nintendo DS to become the best-selling Nintendo console of all time. What an incredible achievement. But what's even more important than those lifetime sales? It's this number. Over 100 million. That's how many people are still actively playing on a Nintendo Switch every single year. This isn't some dusty old console sitting in a closet. It's a massive, super engaged community. And this, right here, is Nintendo's secret weapon. See, in the past,
Whenever they launched a new console, like the Wii U after the Wii, that connection to the old players was basically cut. They had to start building an audience all over again from zero. But this time, they launched the Switch 2 right into this thriving ecosystem of over 100 million active players. That gave them a foundation for growth that they have just never, ever had before.
So you've got a record-breaking launch, you've got this enduring legacy. What's next? What does the future hold? Let's take a look at their forecast, and more importantly, the games they have coming down the pipe.
Okay, so this part is kind of interesting. Despite this unbelievable performance, Nintendo hasn't actually raised their financial forecast for the year. And it's this classic balancing act, right? On one hand, a weaker yen means their overseas sales are worth more, which is great for profits. But on the other hand, a huge chunk of their sales are now from new consoles, which have way lower profit margins than software. So these two things are kind of canceling each other out, which is why they're playing it safe with the forecast for now. But don't get it twisted. The momentum is absolutely going to continue. The key thing here is that Nintendo is not taking its foot off the gas. They have a packed release schedule that's designed to keep the hype for the Switch 2 at a total fever pitch. I mean, we're already seeing major titles slated for early 2026. We've got Mario Tennis Fever dropping in February, and then the super charming Yoshi and the Mysterious Book is planned for the spring. These are exactly the kinds of beloved first-party games that keep people locked into the ecosystem. And they're not forgetting their core fans either. A brand new Fire Emblem called Fortune's Weave is on the horizon, and you know that's going to deliver that deep, strategic gameplay the series is famous for. It just goes to show you, they're committed to having a really diverse and powerful software lineup. So, after all that, we're kind of left with this one big question. We've seen their fastest console launch ever, fueled by monster hit games, all built on the largest active player base they've ever had. When you put all those pieces of the puzzle together, you just have to ask, is Nintendo building a truly unstoppable entertainment ecosystem? Something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.